Hello, class. My name is Jacob Walters. The winter of 1777 may be one of the most infamous periods of early American military history. It was the winter that General George Washington and the Continental Army spent in cold and uncomfortable quarters in Valley Forge, Pennsylvania. Valley Forge is located 20 or so miles north of Philadelphia and was chosen because it was naturally defensible. It was high ground surrounded by a series of hills. It was also chosen because it was close enough to Philadelphia that the Continental Army could keep an eye on the British. The hardships experienced by the new American Army are well known. Among the most pressing were shortages of food, blankets, shoes, clothing, and other things that are necessary to keep an army moving and healthy, particularly in the wintertime. There is an old adage that is appropriate here, and that is that an army fights on its stomach. And you can add to that its ability to protect itself from extreme weather and the elements, and its ability to provide basic necessities like shoes and uniforms. I have chosen two documents for this exercise. They are each orders issued by the respective armies in reference to supplies and equipment. They provide us with tangible evidence of these issues, as well as with the attitude of each commander concerning how these supplies should be acquired. I'm going to start with a document issued by the Commissary Office of the British Army, which at that time was located in Philadelphia. And it states, all persons having in their possession any kind of stores and provisions belonging to the rebel army are hereby required to report the same to the quartermaster or commissary general, and everyone neglecting to do it will be treated with the utmost rigor. Any person who will give information where any is secreted will be rewarded in proportion to the value found on such information. Issued in Philadelphia, September 29th of 1777. Again, that was by the British Commissary General. And keep in mind, this last paragraph, which I think is, this last sentence, which I think is key. And it said, everyone neglecting to do it, that is, to turn in any supplies belonging to the rebel army, will be treated with the utmost rigor. Okay. Now, the second document is issued by His Excellency George Washington, General and Commander-in-Chief of the Forces of the United States of America. And it says, by virtue of the power and direction to me especially given, I hereby enjoin and require all persons residing within 70 miles of my headquarters to thresh one half of their grain by the first day of February, and the other half by the first day of March. Next ensuing on pain, in case of failure of having all that shall remain in sheaves after the period of above mentioned, seized by the commissaries and quartermasters of the army, and paid for as straw. Given under my hand at the headquarters near Valley Forge in Pennsylvania County, this 20th day of December, 1777. So the gist behind this particular order was that the Continental Army was in need of these crops, and what they didn't want is for farmers to let them sit in their fields long enough that the British could get a hold of them, or that they could be damaged by the weather. They needed to get them threshed and get them and make sure they were on their way to where George Washington needed them to go, which was to his army located in Valley Forge. And of course, one of the key things to pay attention to here is that if they fail to do this, they will have their sheaves seized and paid for as straw, which of course was far less than the actual value of wheat or barley or whatever type of grain they were talking about. So now that you have heard each order for yourselves, I would encourage you to answer a couple of questions. First, how would you describe the character of each commander's request? What were the demands, And what were the consequences if the farmers and merchants were to refuse? Second, what does it tell you about some of the issues facing the new nation? Did a lack of policy and administrative infrastructure present a large problem for Washington and the newly established Army's leadership? As you consider these questions, keep in mind the character of the soon-to-be American Republic and how Washington's request reflected or didn't reflect American values at the time. I hope you guys all enjoy this. Please send your answers and post your answers on my discussion board post. You guys have a great evening.